Here he is, candidate for Clayton County Chair, Dr. Terry Baskin. Terry Baskin was the former chair for the Democratic Party for 2 years. He has 2 decades as a police officer for Atlanta City.
Yes, ma'am.
And 20 years as a Clayton County Tax Commissioner. Isn't that awesome? You can witness how Dr. Baskin has mastered challenges, demonstrating a remarkable blend of leadership, vision, and a steadfast commitment to community well-being. Terry Baskin stands for 5 pillars, okay? Crime reduction and prevention, education, economic development, health and wellness, increased county revenues, and accessibility to retail restaurants provide an opportunity to create a comprehensive and appealing political platform. Welcome, Dr. Terry Baskin, to the Hot Seat interview.
Well, thank you so much, Ms. Martinez, just for the invitation. I'm honored to be here. I'm glad that we can sit and have these conversations pertaining to issues concerning our citizens here in Clayton County. We have an opportunity, a golden opportunity, to help those who are out there and ready to vote in May. Make sure that you understand the issues that are appealing to us and those who can handle the issues themselves. We need leadership in these positions, especially the chair of Clayton County Commission.
So people out there understand that a local government core responsibility are to provide essential services of public safety, roads, infrastructure, renting investors, and health while maintaining an environment amenable to citizens' life and livelihood. The questions that I am about to ask today are designed to help the citizens of Clayton County recognize whether the counties for County Commissioner Chair support individual liberty, free enterprise, and limited and accountable government. The primary duty of a commission is to create and help and implement policies and identify a commissioner's priority and methods by which they hope to accomplish those goals. So the first question is, what policy changes or investments are necessary to encourage broader employment in Clayton County?
You know, as a county chair, that person has to be focused on inclusivity.
Oh, that's important.
Basically, I can't do it by myself. So that I have to incorporate other entities to come in and galvanize the people to understand that there is an opportunity to invest in Clayton County. Take, for instance, right now I serve on the Development Authority of Clayton County as the secretary/treasurer of that development. And right now, our focus is to enhance the ideal of those investors that come in. We have to make Clayton a wise place to invest. And that's why we call them investors, because they want to come in and do what they need to do so we can increase our revenue.
That's important, revenue.
And very much, because you can't do too much without revenue.
Like you can't.
And right now, the key is to focus on how we can galvanize people together and give them a vision of what we need to do for the next 5, 10, 20 years from now. We're laying a foundation at this very moment, simply because we have an opportunity for 3 seats to be filled with new faces.
Oh my goodness.
Right now, the chair is the catalyst in moving the investment into Clayton County.
So in your platform, certainly you show basically your plan, and it's a very innovative plan for Clayton County. But what area do you think should have more attention once you get elected?
Once I get elected, I want to focus on the safety and security of this county. I know the numbers from the FBI shows a high crime being enacted in Clayton County. I know from my experience as a police officer and an investigator in Atlanta, it shows where definitely we might want to revisit a two-man car. Think about it.
Yes.
Because when you have that one car show up and one police officer there, it's good. But when you have two in one car, it answers the question. You have power. You have also another ear to witness what's going on, what could happen. Number three, it brings that safety and security to our community because we want to make sure that our officers not only arrive on time, but get to go home on time also.
That's important. Well, high crime rates is 20% increase by 2021. And in 2021, also, I have some stats that caught my attention in terms of homicide went up 40.54%. That's not a good thing. And also we have seen a lot of vehicle theft. That went 13.52. Also explain to people, the citizen of Clayton County, the difference between Clayton County Police Department and the Sheriff's Office. Because sometimes we get confused as citizens what it is, right?
Yes.
We think it's the same thing, but it's not.
Well, you have your county police that focuses on answering the calls. When you call 911, it's actually the county police that will respond to the calls. Now, the sheriff's office, four main functions basically is to serve warrants, protect the jail, definitely protect the other county buildings, and to actually answer, or should I say, be a support unit to the police department. Now, both are vital. And as your chair, I want to make sure that, once again, that we're galvanizing. I want to make sure that both police and sheriff's department are on the same tune. Definitely to a point where if we run short with the police, we got a sheriff to back us up. We want to make sure that they're all inclusive. Make sure that
including the cities too?
Absolutely. The local jurisdiction has got to be in there. Listen, every oar has to be in the water. In order for us to make it a safe community, we need everybody to pitch in. It just can't be a one-man band. It has to be to a point where we're collaborating from one location to another. We're helping everybody to back up. You know, your local jurisdiction can be deputized once again by the sheriff, and they have that power throughout the whole county, be honest with you, the whole state. But we want to make sure we focus on Clayton County's issues at hand. That's how we eliminate crime.
Certainly, we have seen in the past all these lawsuits about the inmates in the correctional system. And just tell us a little bit about that and where you stand in terms of the human rights of the inmates.
You know, I'm a staunch believer in protection. And I do believe if the sheriff's department is doing what they should be doing, once again, one of their main function is to protect that jail. And every person that's been charged with a crime has the right to have their rights honored. And that's where we should focus on. I'm quite sure the candidates that you're probably going to interview will say basically the same thing. We want to make the jail safe and secure. I have trust in the sheriff, now and from there on in, to do what needs to be done of the scope of his office to ensure that everybody there is safe and secure. If it's random checks on, the cells to make sure there's no shanks or anything in the jail or any harm being done to another person, let's make sure that we understand how important this race is and how important the sheriff's race is. We need to make sure that we put the best candidate in position of chair and sheriff at the same time.
Well, as a homeowner, taxes is a main concern.
Oh, my favorite song.
Oh, yes. And you were the tax commissioner for 2 decades, and the citizens pay home taxes, mileage rate, sales taxes, employment taxes, retirement taxes, plate taxes, the one for the car. Yeah. It's like the working class cannot breathe. Do you plan to promote any changes in the existing taxes? How can you work with the tax commissioner to make sure that we get the revenues that we need, but at the same time, let's put less on the working class? Because, the homeowners, 60%, right here in Hampton, 60% of the homeowners pay taxes. And we are basically holding the whole state in terms of taxes, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So it's important to know. Hampton loved you. It's important to know that because we want to make sure that we could maintain the houses pretty, in good condition, but at the same time, we need a break. We really need a break. So what are your plans to work with this?
Well, as the former tax commissioner here in Clayton County, I took the opportunity to go to every civic meeting, every HOA, every church, you name it. And I was doing this simply because there are a lot of people who are not getting their senior exemption or their homestead exemption. You see, when a person comes into the community, they buy a house and they're not being told at the time of closing that you have a right to go to your local tax commissioner's office and file for your homestead exemption. Well, 24 months later on down the road, after they sign and they got the keys to the house, they're jubilant. They're happy, but nobody has advised them until maybe a neighbor say, hey, you know what? I got my exemption. And then all of a sudden they come to the house. It happened
to me, so my husband, it happened.
Oh, absolutely.
And we went over there and they say, well, the deadline is
yes.
I said,
yes.
My goodness. Yeah.
In order for me to help, I will bring that knowledge to the forefront. And it's a plus as your next chair to help citizens understand when the time to apply for that homestead or that senior homestead. Everybody needs it. Trust me, everybody needs it. Because I was thrilled when I got my senior exemption and I saw my tax bill last year.
Right.
I was jubilant. But right now, for any leader to step into this role, it is to help educate the citizens of this county and help them understand you need to apply. You need to apply when you have issues pertaining to your veterans exemption. You need to apply even if it goes for your motor vehicle taxes. There's an exemption for the veterans that you must understand.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, ma'am.
I need to tell my son.
That's right. We need to help educate you on the laws that are being written and passed by the governor. And we need to help you understand, because I know the current tax commissioner does that too. And that's because she followed suit of what I was doing, making sure people are educated and understand when and where and how you get your exemptions. Now, as far as me concentrating on one, let's just say if there's an opportunity as your chair to cut taxes, I'll be able to work from that point. Now, I want to make sure you understand what I'm saying. If there's come to a point where our balanced budget comes out and we're at the end of the fiscal year, we're able to cut taxes, that's when I'll step in. And that's when the most experienced person will know when and where and how to do this.
And certainly, the second most important duty of a commissioner is to construct, approve, and implement the budget. The Clayton County budget, if I'm not mistaken, is $397 million.
You might as well say close to, just go ahead and round it up to 400 million.
400 million is much easier to understand. It's too many numbers, you know what I mean?
Yes, ma'am.
Approved for the fiscal year. Fiscal year starts in July 1st, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So, because we need to understand that too. And it was approved June 7. The mileage rate went up and then it went down. What is your experience preparing and authorizing budgets, and what change a chair will recommend, or you in this case, to balance the Clayton County budget, which right now I don't think we're doing too well?
All right. My years as tax commissioner, 20 plus years as tax commissioner, has allotted me to every year I had to prepare a budget. But let me fold before that. Out of 20 plus years as law enforcement officer, my last 5 years was based on a 5-year stint as a budget analyst with the Atlanta Police Department. Yes, I had to prepare, I had to orchestrate, and I had to administer every dollar that I put into that budget to make it come out complete, concise, and make sure that I even had to represent the Atlanta Police Department at a budget hearing. So my years of experience of putting budgets together exceeds well over 30 years of putting together and administering a budget. So as your chair, I have the exclusive ability to not only manage the budget, but also to administer and making sure that my other counterparts will understand what we're doing and why we're doing it. Now, when you look at the budget at this very moment, you're talking about $400 million. And where did that go to? And what was the end results? See, you must understand, we put a budget out every year for the fiscal year. And we want to make sure that we keep within balance. That means that our finance department is on key with keeping the task of making sure that we're spending adequately. If we go beyond that, it's basically because we found pet projects that we exceed that budget. In my administration, that won't happen.
Certainly, and this is information found in the internet in terms of news, because expenditure exceeded the revenues, Clayton County had to use $7.4 million to balance the fund. And it's called, to understand it better, the savings account of Clayton County. And my concern is why we did this. We put the mileage rate up, then we put the mileage rate down. And do you think that's a good job?
No. And I say that because of my experience with the digest and dealing with the millage rate. Now, as long as I've been tax commissioner, we've never exceeded a millage cut no further than 1.25%. This 3.5 millage rate cut is devastating. And this is why I can sit here and say for the next 24 months, we're on the clock. And what I mean by that, it cuts so low just to say for 2023, we cut the taxes. Now, here's what the repercussion behind that. For the next 24 months, we either have a load of money, $10 million sitting on the side that says that we're going to make up for the losses that we cut, or we're going to furlough our employees, or we're going to lay them off, or we're going to cut services. What manager, what leader would cut to a point where you got to raise taxes 24 months from now? And it's a given. But here's the difference, okay? Remember, I said we're on the clock. And this is the opportunity for us to go back and reinvest in our community by allowing those investors to come in and have development to a point where now they're incorporated their taxes into the well-being of our budgets. So we got a lot of work to do, but there's only one person out of the candidate that's running for chair can actually handle this.
Certainly, this show good management?
Yes, it shows where nobody was aware of what the damages were for the cuts that was being made. And right now, we've got to make up for that.
So how much funds are in the saving account of Clayton County right now?
Well, I have no true knowledge of that, but I know when I was tax commissioner, you were talking about a fund balance of something like $40 million. But that goes very fast. Trust me, it does not stick around long when you have to spend or constantly spending to make up for the losses that you created.
Do you think this is related to the COVID pandemic in a sense, or it's not?
It's not. I'm going to say it wasn't wise to cut so low. But right now, at this very moment, Clayton County has an opportunity to put those in position that will know what to do. Physically minded people who will actually go in and do what needs to be done to help eliminate the possibility of even higher taxes coming down and further down the road.
Certainly, we need to see how can we be more effective in how we manage the people's money in Clayton County. And my question is, yes, we could attract investors to pay more taxes, but can we somehow, and I think Clayton County doesn't have it, I'm not sure, but you will clarify that for me, to establish a professional office to present federal proposals to get federal money for the different programs that we should have here in Clayton County. Is this already exist or is something that we could do?
I think it's something that we can do. I'm going to encourage this. I need a grant writer. One that will oversee the mere fact that if there's a opportunity for the county or for cities to engage in federal funding, a grant writer is able to write that grant and present it to the Board of Commissioners, and we can move forward with the funding. And let's not forget, every dollar that you get from the feds, you have to account for it.
Yes. It's not something we could use in something else.
No, ma'am.
No, it has to be for that program as specific, like safety or keeping the lakes clean. Or
yes, ma'am.
But it's money that could come in and helps in terms of getting people to be employed
Absolutely.
in different professions.
Or how about this? Sidewalks.
Oh, yes.
And securing our parks. We have a number of rec centers. There are monies out there on the federal and state level that we can tap into. But I need a good grant writer that would take advantage of every opportunity to submit a grant on behalf of Clayton County.
Well, in this show, we always have the hot seat question that the candidate doesn't know. But as a chair for the Clayton County Commissioners Board, what can we do to clean the Flint River and we don't convert ourselves as Michigan problem over there that they have lead in the water?
I'll use that example from Flint, Michigan. I was born in Detroit, and I can say this. There were bad decisions being made to create that problem. And I know when we get to a point and then we have to look at the Flint River situation, critical understanding of the problem is needed. And this is why I need to galvanize people together. Give me the best solution. That's all I'm looking for. The best solution for the Flint River. What do we need to do? Let's have clear understanding of where we are, where we need to be, and how the direction of travel we take. So let's make sure we understand if I have a number of heads together and we all come up with an action plan for the Flint River, that's the direction I'm going to take.
Definitely. And just for the citizens to know, it was announced that Flint River, which is through Hampton, Lovejoy, goes down to Tara Road, and then it goes to the right.
That's right.
It has the chemical compound PFA, and to understand it better is Teflon. You know the Teflon that you use in the pots? That's what it is. So a huge investigation needs to happen in order to see who's dumping these illegal chemicals in the river. So because it's going to cost the taxpayers again $450 million to fix the problem. Do you think that's fair?
No, but once again, I'm going to go back to the grant writers, and I'm going to go back to a coalition of people that will look into this and make sure that if there's a possibility for grant money from the federal and state, we can enact on that. We want to make sure that it's not all on Clayton County citizens. And I want to make sure that everything that comes from the feds is fed into that project alone. We do not take money and spend willy-nilly on something other than what it's earmarked for.
Yeah, definitely. So people know and understand any federal grants that we receive it has like a title, and it can only be used. That funds, we could say, okay, we have in the budget a total of $800 million, but $400 million are federal funds, and those funds need to be used specifically for those projects. Certainly, the Clean Water Act will help this problem. We'll need to see more deep into that, because certainly we have to do something about it, because if we want to attract investors, it's important that everything is on point. Our sidewalks, our bridges, and now that we talk about sidewalks and bridges, when can we see Hastings Bridge Farm expand? Because we signed some papers 5 years ago to expand that bridge, but I don't know what happened. They did not expand it. So it's something that we have to look into it, because also we need sidewalks everywhere.
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am, we do. I have to concur on that. But I want to make sure that when we look at all possibilities of being blessed with a grant or any funding on a federal level, I want to make sure that we exercise our rights to make sure everything is covered. Let's make sure that one way or another, those funds are available and we're spending accordingly. Now, when you talk about expansion of bridge, I'm quite sure there was the governor himself signed a bill 2 years ago. It might have been 3 years ago, pertaining to the bridge's expansion. Were we left out in that? That's something I need to investigate. That's something I need to look into and make sure that if we're left out, why? And if not, let me apply for it and go from there.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
In terms of the land use and regulations, permits, process, and doing enough, are we doing enough to assure public interest, or are they too onerous?
I'm going to start from the very beginning as a tax commissioner. I'm going to say 12 years ago, I introduced information to the Board of Commissioners, helping them to understand that the county owned well over 250 parcels of land. And a good portion of that was not well invested. What am I saying? It can go back on the tax digest as a revenue builder. Why? Because that property can actually be sold and put back into use where it's generating a revenue, which means that cost it goes into your pocket to a point where you're not paying higher taxes. Why? Because now if I cut what's unused down to from 250, maybe down to 100 parcels owned by the county, then that's savings right there, and it's revenue generated from the sales of those properties. Now, some are not worth it. Okay, you're talking about retention ponds, things of that nature. It just doesn't sell, okay? But let's look at it realistically and make sure that we're doing what we need to be doing and being fair stewards of taxpayers' dollars.
So that takes us to the question about what happened, because everybody is talking about it, but the information is not out there clear. I think it was $500,000 that just walk away with no accountability and transparency. Can you explain to the citizens of Clayton County what is this about?
Well, the project was called Romeo United. And I'll give you a brief synopsis of it simply because I came in afterwards. It was an investor that came in and gave and guaranteed as far as building an area up from where it is today. And that is in between Lake City and Morrill, right across the street from the archives. Well, that investors for the next 2 years continue to pour into the mere fact that we can build a used structure at the tune of $800 million. He will have other investors that will actually participate in to the tune of $350 million. But there was one problem. Nobody took the opportunity to vet this person, this investor. Nobody took the opportunity to say, well, he's not legit. For 2 years, we sat and we watched everybody engage with this person, but they never vetted him. He walked out of here with over $559,000 in a 2-year period. We're at this point where that stings still, because you must understand we're not sitting on a mountain of money. And we need to be, once again, good stewards of taxpayer dollars. We did not take the time out to invest. Now, we're at that point where we need to understand, to be trusted, to be honored, you don't need the same people at the helm. What am I saying? Be honest with you. If this was a football, basketball, baseball, hockey team, and each year they have losing seasons, what do you think they're going to do with the general manager? What do you think they're going to do with the coach? Now, one person answered to that melee, that debacle, and did absolutely nothing. That's why in my administration, you won't have issues like that, simply because we know that my team that I go in with will make sure that every tax dollars is earmarked for what it's for.
So let me ask you something. So when they hired this investor, was any bonds put in place, any insurance put in place, or they just trusted that it was okay?
I think the latter part would answer your question. Once again, from the Development Authority to the Board of Commissioners, there were a lot of communication. I don't have the full details of it, but you can rest assured, as your tax commissioner, I handle well over $350 million in the accounts that went to the state, the county, the schools, and the cities. Not one dime has come up. Not one. And that's because of the integrity that I placed upon my employees to make sure that when we collect it, we automatically distribute it. And we make sure that every time, and my office was the only office in the entire county that was audited 3 times a year. And that's county, state, and independent. We had to make sure that every dime was in place. That also added to the integrity of what I, as your tax commissioner, was doing. Now, as your county chair, I'll do the same.
That's right. That's good to know, because certainly all that is happening is not good for the citizens of Clayton County. Now,
yes,
we are seeing a lot of employees leaving their jobs in Clayton County, and in a sense, we are losing training, money. Does the environment of what we call the working environment in Clayton County is a good environment? Because this is telling me it's not.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to say, and I'm going to be very liberal as far as my answer goes, simply because Clayton County is an ideal location to work for. No, the money aspect, everybody is going through the same situation, both private and public. But what we have to make sure that leadership position is what counts the most. Okay. My people when I was tax commissioner, I made sure that they understood one thing. One, I stood behind them. Two, you never know, because one day you might see me sitting next to them, working with them, and making sure that everything is in collaboration and working together helps them understand if he's doing it, then I got to do it that way too. They also understood that there's nobody has the exception to override what needs to be done until it comes to me, because I am the one to answer to all the decisions made in the tax commissioner's office. I'm bringing that to the commissioner's office. I want to make sure that all the employees would know you may look up one day and I'm sitting right next to you doing the same job you're doing. And if I'm doing it better, then I want to make sure that you understand what you're doing wrong. The question was always, when I asked the question, why are you doing that way? They would say, that's the way we've always done it. No, these are new day, new times. And we need to make sure that our people are well trained, well organized, and the administration follows along the same way. I want my administration that can work on the same thing with the employees and understand what they're doing and then correct them in what they're doing.
And certainly the wages, they need to be attractive to keep those applicants that are highly qualified. It's important to do that.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, certainly, what effective service that we have right now, are we better if we have contracting people outside to do the services, or it's better to do it within the government of Clayton County? And one of the things that pops up all the time is the problem of people dumping trash all over. So what is your take about that? When you look at the situation that we're facing, trash pickup to dumping, two separate entities, two separate issues. And we got to make sure that we understand both. Right now, when I was tax commissioner, once again, they asked me to actually put the sanitation on the tax bill. And I was vehemently against it. Why? Let's start from the very beginning. If I put that amount, say like $800 added onto your tax bill, that is a tax increase, which means that now your mortgage company would be attracted to that and say, okay, now we got to raise your mortgage premium every month. Why? Because we got to supplement that. So that's why I was totally against it. Now, in order for us to really get to where the county commissioners are, yes, I would entertain an idea that the tax commissioner can send a separate tax bill, not a tax bill, but a separate bill earmarked for sanitation. That tax commissioner will still have the ability to lien on properties and make sure that it's paid accordingly. And even if there's interest and penalties added to it, that tax commissioner is able to do such. You look at Fulton County, DeKalb County, Cobb County, Gwinnett. All of them are doing the same as long as they keep that amount from the original tax bill. So that way the taxpayer doesn't have to pay for what you don't pay. Exactly. In other words. Now let's spin to the other issue, and that's dumping. And this is where everybody has to play a part. Yes, I want to make sure that code enforcement is well trained and well versed in what needs to be done. Number two, we need to train the citizens themselves on dumping. Why? Because it started with when I sat on the solid waste board and we created the office of Keep Clayton Beautiful. Once again, it's something to help train not only the kids,
but also the adults that live in this community. We need to be stewards, good stewards of our neighborhoods. And if you see a person dumping tires, couches, trash, yes, you need to be that nosy neighbor and report it. Get their tag number. Put it into our system so we can go to that person and find out where they're coming from.
Yeah, I already reported one.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I have like a little land that belongs to Clayton County beside my house, and they come and dump a lot of stuff there, and I took pictures and a tag, and then they were like, "Hey, you took?" Yep.
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm, yes. Mm-hmm. We have to be good stewards of this land because it's ours, and if we don't, we allow everybody to come in and do their dumping. Well, I'm like this in my neighborhood. I'm sorry if I drive past some trash, I'm going to stop, pick it up, and take it to my dumpster. But we all have to take that attitude. And the only way we can do that through training. And if we create the office of Keep Clayton Beautiful and again.
Education too.
That's educational aspect.
It's key. Definitely is. Well, everything is related with money, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And it seems like with your experience, certainly you're going to bring all this experience to the Clayton County chair.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the situation about the incomplete SPLOT? And tell people what SPLOT means, because sometimes we talk and we think people know what SPLOTs mean. The project since 2016, it mentioned 60%. I don't know if that's increase or what, but can you explain to the citizens what is this all about?
Well, we have had a number of SPLOS, and I'll give you the acronym for it. SPLOS stands for Special Local Option Sales Tax, which means that we take upon ourselves to put in X amount into an account, and it's earmarked for several projects throughout the county. Look at your rec centers. That was a SPLOS project. Look at some of the road conditions that you have. That's a special local option sales tax. It's based on what we look at and what we need. And when we, the citizens, voted in, it's enacted by the county commissioners and managed by the county commissioners. Now, when we say there's a special project like capital improvement, we must understand that we're talking about buildings. We're talking about land mass that we can change and rebuild from that point. Because there are a lot of buildings in Clayton counties are at the point where they've been up since the 70s and 80s. And instead of putting a Band-Aid on it, we need to either redevelop or move into a position where we can tear it down and build up. And that's where we are today. We are facing this simply because we have no leadership that led the charge in helping us to understand what we need to do. Number two, we also there was an opportunity for SPLOS to have public input. Now, if you don't get involved, how can you complain? How can we be stewards to say, hey, this needs to be done, or nobody told me? We need everybody to get involved. When I first started this interview, I said
it's important to mention, because sometimes they do the town halls and times that people are working and you can't go, or they do it on a Sunday and you have to go to church. So we have to look with so much technology.
Yes.
Don't you think a chair can inform all the time to the citizens what's going on?
Yes.
Because not all the time you can go to this town hall meeting to get informed.
Correct.
And because of COVID, a lot of people don't want to go out and be in contact with other people, because we're working with that too. That's a problem.
Exactly.
Even for politicians, that's a problem, because people don't even want to open the door to listen to the candidates. But certainly technology is there to help any chair to communicate with the citizen, isn't it?
I think so. And I'm going to use a prime example of last year's Freeport tax exemption. Now that was a travesty, and that caught my attention to a point where I didn't even know we had an election going on. Now, I'll go simultaneously invoke the SPLOST along with Freeport tax exemption. Is basically giving those businesses, really logistic businesses, the opportunity to be totally exempt from any taxation. And in the meantime, they're utilizing our roads and trash services. See, so once again, they're getting free tax exempt from taxes, which was not conducive to our pockets because we had to pick that up.
So when did they approve this?
That was approved years ago, and every 4 years we have opportunity to examine that. Well, just last year there was enough people that came out and helped educate the public here in Clayton County that we had an opportunity to reduce that from 100% exemption to 80% exemption. Now they have to pay 20% into our coffers of the county. The question is, what do we do with that 20%? That's where my administration comes to the forefront. We want to make sure that that tax dollar is earmarked for what we need here in the county. Just like the 60% of your SPLOST is still, completed, but you're talking about 40% since 2016. That's 8 years ago.
8 years ago.
Unconscionable. This because, once again, you've got to have an administrator, you got to have a leader, you got to have someone that's going to look at the tax dollars and say, we've got to do better. In collection, we got to do better in how we administer and definitely distribute this accordingly.
Well, Delta Airlines pays the county 60% in revenues compared to the other 20 companies that provide or pay taxes in Clayton County. And I have to defend that because my son is a Delta pilot and my daughter-in-law is a Delta pilot for Delta Airlines.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and how can we avoid losing revenues from businesses and from Hartsfield-Jackson Airport? And it's related to just what you said.
Right. Mm-hmm. There are avenues that we still have yet to explore. And I do recall years ago, early 2010, 2012, where the city of College Park took the airport to court, and they took it all the way to the Georgia Supreme Court and won. The same issues that they were facing, Clayton County was facing. As your county chair, I want to take the opportunity to rediscover what we're losing and how we're losing it. I know as tax commissioner, I was not allotted the opportunity to be engaging with the other powers to be. But as your leader here in Clayton County, yes, I want to revisit it. I'm not talking about tearing down the airport or going in and taking it over. No, here's what I'm saying. There are avenues that we have yet to invoke. We have yet to even research to find out what we can do to receive revenues from the airport. Today, we get pennies on the dollar.
Pennies on the dollar.
That's right. Tomorrow, as your chair, I want to go and research what really is due to Clayton County.
Well, Dr. Baskin, tell the people of Clayton County why they should vote for you. Look at that camera and tell them.
I'll tell you like this. As one of 4 running for the chair's position, I am the only one that stand out like a sore thumb. As far as years of experience, law enforcement background, as far as working with the business community as your tax commissioner, and definitely handling money. That is essential for the next county chair. There's no other opponent that can boast that. I am the only one. That's why you need a new leader in that position, and that new leader should be Terry Baskin. Please cast your vote for Terry Baskin for the next county commissioner chair.
Thank you, Dr. Baskin,
Thank
for
you
being
so
here.
much.
For the citizens out there, the key achievement and expertise, he specialized in real and personal property tax legislation, motor vehicle and bankruptcy laws, managed one Metro Atlanta largest tax budget exceeding $300 million annually, longest service tax commissioner in Clayton County for 2 decades, that's 20 years, and alumnus of the University of Georgia Executive Leadership Institute, co-creator of ex officio member of the Clayton County Land Bank, chair of the Clayton County Chief Financial Officers Committee, and many, many other leadership roles. And Doctor, thank you for this interview.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure to have you here.
I'm honored to be here. And anytime you need me, give me a call.
I will. This is Maggie Martinez, the Hot Seat Interview. Until next time.